Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that seems, well, deceptively simple, a smooth rock. But hidden inside this is a revolutionary technology, the Polish stone tool. We hear a lot about metal, but this earlier step, it was absolutely pivotal in human history.
It really was. You could argue the foundations of, well, everything we call civilization start right here. So our mission today is to unpack this. We'll look at it three ways: the actual technical jump, the immediate problems it solved for people back then, and then the really big long-term changes it brought to society.
Okay, and that technical leap is huge when you think about what came before. Chip stone tools.
Yeah.
Right. That was all about using how brittle stone is, just flaking bits off. But polishing is working with the stone's density, using grinding. Feels like a massive mental shift. How did that actually work?
It's a total shift from, let's say, quick brute force to slow, meticulous work. Polished tools weren't just a single action, it was multi-step. You'd have the initial hitting and shaping, sure, but then came the grinding. Sometimes days of it, using something abrasive like wet sandstone, often followed by a final smoothing or polishing, this kind of secondary processing. It gave you tools that were just dramatically sharper, much smoother, and way more durable.
And that durability, it's pretty stunning. I read that some of those Japanese Jomon-era axes, the Scress, they reached Moses hardness 5. That's
about the hardness of a modern steel knife blade, yeah.
Wow, just using stone.
Yeah.
The kind of precision and toughness that unlocks, it's revolutionary.
Absolutely incredible. And this wasn't just, a neat trick. It became essential right when the environment was throwing curveballs. Remember, the climate was warming up fast after the Ice Age. People had to rely much more on plants, wild grains, roots, that sort of thing.
Okay, so you've got climate change, potential food scarcity. Yeah. How does a smooth rock fix that? Seems like a disconnect. What was the actual advantage?
Well, the key tools here were things like the grinding stone base and the hand stoner grinder. These were perfect for getting the tough hulls off wild greens and then grinding them down into a fine powder, a flour. And here's the fascinating part, the nutritional breakthrough. Turning grain into powder, it massively increases the surface area for digestive enzymes. Suddenly, this high-calorie plant food becomes much easier to digest, even for young children or the elderly. That's a huge boost for community health.
Right, making calories more accessible across the board. Okay, so that helps with food. But what about the other big challenge? Building more permanent homes. People were starting to settle down, but you need to process wood for serious structures. And the old chipped tools, they just weren't very good at that, were they?
Not efficient at all. But those polished axes, that efficiency leap was critical for building. Think about that axe we mentioned, felling a decent-sized tree, maybe 20 centimeters, in about an hour instead of half a day.
Right.
That reduction in labor time, it suddenly made large-scale woodworking feasible. You could build complex structures, even using sophisticated joints like tenons and mortises. And sturdy defensive structures, too. This ability to build secure, permanent homes, that really enabled settled life.
So you've got reliable food thanks to grinding stones and reliable shelter thanks to polished axes. People can finally stop moving around constantly. This sets the stage for sedentary life, agriculture, the whole revolution. But it didn't just change where people lived, it changed how they lived together, right?
Right.
How does polishing stone lead to, social classes?
Well, think about the time investment. Making a really high-quality polished tool took ages. It wasn't something you could just knock out quickly anymore. So the tools themselves become valuable. And the skill to make them, that becomes valuable too. This fosters real specialization. If you were good at it, maybe that's all you did. You became a dedicated toolmaker. And your work was valuable enough that others would trade their surplus food for your tools.
So specialization of labor emerges. And once you have specialists and surpluses,
then you start seeing differences. Some people accumulate more valuable things than others. The archaeological record shows this clearly. You find tombs filled with valuable goods, like polished jade ornaments, right next to burials with almost nothing. That's the beginning of wealth inequality, social stratification, all based on who controls resources and specialized skills.
And presumably, these valuable goods needed to move around.
Exactly. To distribute things like high-quality stone, jade, or finished tools, trade networks started to form. We have evidence of materials traveling over 200 kilometers. So this simple technology underpins the start of, a real economy.
It really is astonishing when you lay it out like that. The core idea, then, is this shift. Moving from just striking rocks, like in the Paleolithic, to this painstaking, careful grinding in the Neolithic. It wasn't just about making a better axe. It fundamentally changed human society, allowing small nomadic bands to become larger, settled, complex communities.
Precisely. It unlocks so much potential. It really did set the stage for everything that followed.
So maybe the next time you think about our complex world, cities, economies, governments, just take a second. Consider how much of it rests on that ancient innovation. A carefully smoothed, polished piece of stone. How much of our present is truly built on that foundation? Something to think about.